welcome to the news update on AFRICUNIA television, reaching you from our studio in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos, Nigeria. I am Deborah Ezeh. We begin from Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday said the election of Senator Adeleke in the Osun State governorship poll is a reflection of the will of the people. Buhari said this in his congratulatory message to Adeleke, the candidate of the opposition People's Democratic Party, who defeated Gboyega Oyetola, Osun State Governor, and candidate of the All Progressives Congress. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) on Sunday declared Adeleke candidate of the PDP winner of the Osun State governorship election. The PDP candidate won 17 of the 30 local government areas in the Osun State governorship election. APC candidate Oyetola won in the remaining 13 local government areas, according to the results announced by INEC on Sunday morning. In total, Oyetola of the APC polled 375,027 votes, while the opposition of the PDP claimed 403,307 votes. Buhari said the election is a demonstration of respect for the people and a legacy of credible election by his administration. And now moving on, in the face of economic and financial challenges, members of the rate-fixing arm of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Monetary Policy Committee, will face tough choices in the next 2 days as the sustained inflationary pressure remains a major challenge for the Apex Bank. The stakes are indeed high and growth is flattening or falling, heightening fears of the worst stagflation in recent years. In the first quarter, the economy grew at 3.1%, a far cry from the expectations of government, and sadly, inflation, a supposed decreasing function of interest rates, soared further by 19 bps, and it rose from 17.7% in May to 18.6% in June. Beyond that, inflation rates across the globe are reinforcing price volatility from one national economy to another through imports. President Buhari had last week said his government's policies had helped protect Nigeria against negative impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as that of COVID-19 pandemic on the global economy. And now still in Nigeria, the Nigerian Labour Congress has expressed its resolve to hold a 2-day national protest to demand the immediate reopening of the country's public-owned tertiary institutions, which had been shut down for 5 months. The resolution by the NLC came just as the Academic Staff Union of University, Usman Danfodio University Chapter, has debunked claims by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, that its medical lecturers are backed out of the ongoing strike embarked upon by the University Lecturers Union. And now the NLC accused the federal government of not negotiating in good faith to resolve the crisis in Nigeria's public universities. The Labour movement had, at its National Executive Council meeting held in Abuja on June 30, 2022, threatened to embark on a nationwide protest to compel the federal government to conclude the ongoing negotiation with trade unions in Nigeria's universities and be prepared to commence implementation of whatever collective bargaining agreement arising there so that public universities in Nigeria can resume normal activities. The federal government was then given a 21-day ultimatum to resolve the dispute or face a 1-day nationwide labor protest, which might culminate in a full-blown workers' strike. The NLC lamented the delay in resolving the dispute between members of ASU and other non-teaching staff union, despite the setting up high-powered negotiating team headed by the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Agbola Gambari, for that purpose. Now away from Nigeria, 2 bridges were blown up by armed groups in Burkina Faso by suspected jihadists in the West African nation. The fighters blew up 2 crucial bridges, raising fears that they intend to isolate the Sahel region. The attackers destroyed the Wuse Bridge, forcing a convoy that was supposed to supply the town of Djibo to return the Kongosi. They also blew up again the Nare Bridge, further disrupting transport in the area. The bridge was attacked for the first time on June 30th, but work was carried out to allow people to continue using the road before being blown up again. Now, according to testimonies and images posted on social networks, it is now practically impossible to get from the capital to Dori. The other bridge affected is the one located in the locality of Wuse on the Kongosi-Bozanga Road in the central north of Burkina Faso. The destruction of parts of the structure forced the convoy carrying supplies to the town of Djibo to turn back. and the convoy was escorted by defense and security forces. Now, still on the African scene, several groups of Chadian rebels and political parties withdrew from talks with the African nation's military government, accusing it of seeking to destabilize peace efforts. The move by about half the groups in talks came less than 24 hours after President Mohamed Idris Deby Itno's administration announced that a national peace dialogue intended to pave the way for elections will start on August 20th. In a statement, the rebels group taking part in Qatar meditated talks in Doha accused the government delegation of harassment, intimidation, threat, and disinformation. The new date has been set without any consultation, they added, saying it was an attempt to exclude many of the armed groups and their political allies from dialogue. Opposition groups have demanded that Deby rule himself out of standing the election before any talks can be held, but the government has said this can only be discussed at the national dialogue. We now go on a short break, and when we come back, it's updates making the rounds on the foreign scene. Stay with me. And now welcome back. Updates from the foreign scene. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky sacked the head of country's domestic security service and state prosecutor, citing hundreds of cases of alleged treason and collaboration with Russia as Moscow appeared set to step up military operations. Zelensky said more than 60 officials from the SBU security service and prosecutor's office were working against Ukraine in Russian-occupied territories, and 651 treason and collaboration cases had been opened against law enforcement officials. The sacking of Sunday of Ivan Bakanov, head of the security service, and Prosecutor General Irian Venediktova, who led efforts to prosecute Russian war crimes and the sheer number of treason cases, revealed the huge challenge of Russia infiltration as Kyiv battles Moscow in what he says is a fight for survival. Zelensky said he had fired the top security official at the start of the invasion, a decision he said had now been shown to be justified. And now moving on, Sri Lanka's acting president Ranil gazetted orders late on Sunday for a state of emergency in the crisis-ridden highland nation in an effort to head off unrest ahead of a vote in parliament later this week to elect a new president. Sri Lanka's leaders have imposed a state of emergency several times since April, when public protests took hold against the government's handling of a deepening economic crisis and a persistent shortage of essentials. Late on Sunday, Ranil, who was sworn in on July 15th as acting president, declared a fresh state of emergency, the specific legal provision which are yet to be announced by the government. Previous emergency regulations have been used to deploy the military to arrest and detain people, search private properties, and dampen public protests. The country's commercial capital, Colombo, remained calm on Monday morning, with traffic and pedestrians out on the streets. And now, still on the foreign scene, North Korea is on the path to finally defuse a crisis stemming from its first acknowledged outbreak of COVID-19, the state news agency said on Monday, while Asian neighbors battle a fresh wave of infections driven by Omicron subvariants. The North says 99.98% of its 4.77 million fever patients since late April are fully recovered, but due to an apparent lack of testing, it has not released any figure of those that proved positive. The World Health Organization has cast doubt on North Korea's claim, saying last month it believed the situation was getting worse, not better, amid an absence of independent data. Daily new cases of fever in North Korea reported by KCNA have been declining since the reclusive country first acknowledged in mid-May that it was battling an outbreak of COVID-19. We now head to the sports scene. Cameroon have sealed their place in the Inter-Continental playoff for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup after a narrow 1-0 victory over Botswana in the clash at the 2022 Women's African Cup of Nations in Rabat on Sunday. The excellent Ajara Joye scored the only goal of the game in the first half, and Cameroon were largely in control, but did finish the game with 10 players after a late red card. They joined Senegal in advancing to the 10-team global playoff in New Zealand in February, where they will contest for the 3 remaining spots available at the finals. The African duo joined Taiwan, Thailand, Haiti, and Panama, who have also booked their places in that tournament. Senegal did so as they defeated Tunisia on penalties in an earlier game at the Women's African Cup of Nations on Sunday. And finally, Barcelona has reached an agreement in principle with Bayern Munich to sign Poland striker Robert Lewandowski. The 33-year-old, who has 1 year left on his Bayern contract, told the German champions last month that he wishes to leave. Lewandowski scored 50 goals in 46 games last season as he helped Bayern Munich win a 10th straight Bundesliga title. Barca says the deal is dependent on the player passing a medical and contract being signed. Lewandowski joined Bayern on a free transfer from Borussia Dortmund in 2014 and has scored 344 times in 374 games for the club, making him their second highest scorer of all time behind Gerd Müller. Bayern has also announced that German winger Serge Gnabry, age 27, has signed a contract extension until 2026. And that concludes the news update on AFRICUNIA television. Do follow all our social media platforms on Jointum, Pangram.ct, Instagram, Facebook, and on Twitter in that respective order. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, and leave a comment for me on the comment section. Once again, I am Deborah Ezeh. Bye for now.